Welcome to Reproductive Rebel, the space where we rewrite the rules of women's health and reclaim what has always been sacred. I'm your host, Adrienne Irizarry, and today we're diving into a conversation that is tender, transformative, and deeply needed. I'm joined by Sacha Fossa, an expert in Tantra and sacred sexuality, who helps women move beyond the shame that they've been taught to carry and awaken the powerful feminine energy that lives within them. This isn't about performance. It's not about technique. This is about reclaiming your body as holy ground, your pleasure as medicine, and your feminine power as something unstoppable. If you have ever felt silenced in your body, disconnected from your desire, or curious about how Tantra can be a path of healing, this episode will feel like a homecoming. Take a deep breath, soften your shoulders, and get ready to join us as we journey from shame to sacred. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are. I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I'm so excited to once again be joined by the amazing Sacha Fossa. Welcome back to the show, Sacha.
Thank you, Adrienne.
So Sacha and I could talk for hours because we have so much in common, and she is a wealth of information about all kinds of cool things. So I wanted to bring her back to talk about Tantra in this episode. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions around what it is, what it does, how you interact with it. I actually offhand in a public place heard somebody make some inappropriately worded joke around the Karma Sutra the other day, and I went, and this is why we need this episode. For those of you that have not caught our previous couple of episodes, please go back and take a look. The most recent episode was episode 33, where we talked about erotic blueprints. And this episode, we're going to cover Tantra. So if you could just give a short little who you are and what you do for people who haven't had a chance to sit and listen to our amazing conversations so far.
Okay. I'm Sacha Fossa. My business is called Sacred Temple Arts. The sacred temple is your body. I am all about custom designing programs for my clients and working in depth with them over time to help them to create their best sex and love life, whatever that looks like for them, so that they're truly loving their life more. Because sexual wellness and sexual wholeness and sexual expression or intimate expression is vital to all of our well-being and everything that we're doing in our lives. I have studied Tantra for over 20 years and studied and practiced Tantra for over 20 years. I'm an advanced certified educator through Source Tantra and studied with other teachers. I'm a sex educator, coach, and healing arts practitioner of 2 decades. So I interweave all the different gifts I have, including the erotic blueprints, which I'm a coach in, into my way of creating these programs to hack for my clients so they don't have to spend 30 years doing the work I did and all the money I spent and time. They can get things very easy peasy and in a pleasurable way that works for them. So I really want to focus on, today of best sex and love life in terms of how Tantra can help with that. And that's going to be unique to each individual very specifically. And so it's going to be fun to dive into this.
I'm really excited about this conversation because for all of the things that I know in this area of women's health, I feel like I hear the most confusion in how people understand or articulate what Tantra is. So, could you start with a nice working definition for people of what Tantra is?
Well, I used to have that. And a lot of educators, practitioners, they'll say, well, Tantra comes from the word tan, to weave. And I do believe that Tantra is about weaving the yin and yang, the masculine and feminine, the cosmos, the earth, all the energies of our experience on the planet, whether it's spiritual, sexual. But yet, if we really look at Tantra as a whole, it's a philosophy. It's still a religion in many places. It's become highly sexualized. There's the neo-tantric and then there's ancient tantric. There is tantric Buddhism. There's Hindu and Taoist Tantra. In Tantra, it can be like the most aesthetic, celibate type of practices to the most extreme, whether it's sexual or also death practices. It covers everything. I do appreciate one of my teachers, Charles Muir, would say, all of Tantra is a practice, not a philosophy. So you can study it as the philosophy. When I did my thesis work, my master's work, I focused deeply in female sexuality, and it was all based on the neo-tantric method of sacred spot massage. I went very deeply into the history of Tantra as well, academically. I don't think that's what we need to cover here today. We want to make it practical for people, but for them to understand that there is just so many different paths. Tantra is everything, in my opinion. If you want to make it something of value, then, like my teacher said, it's a practice, not a philosophy, right? For me, it was a very serious practice. Like, I really revolved around my tantric energy of learning it, practicing it, it being my main kind of focus for a very long time. But now it feels like it's just part of who I am. Right? It's part of the practices of lovemaking. It's part of what I teach my clients. It is part of my everyday living experience, but I'm not radically focused on hours of practice specifically in the modalities any longer. And that was a value to do, but most people are not interested in that. If you want to do that, then go find a really amazing tantric school to study in some lineage, right? I will also say I am not a lineage carrier, which some of the teachers out there are. And they say, if you aren't a lineage carrier, you shouldn't be teaching Tantra. Well, I'm not a lineage carrier, but I did receive a certificate as an educator in Tantra. I'm not a guru, I'm an educator, which is much more preferred, by the way. So it's essentially, if we look at the ancient practices, again, it could be a philosophy, you could be celibate, it can be a part of a sexual practice, it can be all of these different pieces. If we look at the neo-tantric movement today, we have a certain number of individuals that really kind of created in this country a greater awareness of it, and schools. And we can talk about those a bit. Really, it's like, what would be the point of learning this, right?
Yes.
From my personal experience, my first tantric workshop was in my early 20s. I saw a flyer for sacred sexuality, and I was taking like every holistic thing at the time and learning all the stuff. And it was quite a ride because I dove right in with this teacher who came from Colorado and was teaching in Boston. And now when I look back, it was like an orgy fest. It was so out of control. There was such a lack of boundaries. And I didn't know that at the time. And I was really like pulled in deeply. And I even ended up going to Colorado and spending 11 days in a deep training she did that was an even bigger, crazy shit show. So it was like I had to pull away from the tantric, and then I would go back in when I would find different teachers. Then I would pull away and I would go back depending on what my experience was. And my experience was all over the place. Right? And I can say I'm grateful for it now because the way that I present and teach to my clients is with a real level of safety in a container
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't end up in the situations that I was. And
Yeah.
I rarely recommend workshops. It's very few teachers I would recommend and so forth because I think it's a dangerous modality, actually. I think that if you just Google Tantra and you look for practitioners out there, you're going to get a lot of people that are doing sex work, which I have nothing against, but they're not really doing Tantra. It's under the guise of Tantra. There's just a lot that's so out of integrity that I could tell you story after story, but nobody wants to be that sad right now.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
closed down. So we're going to keep it like to what would be the point? What would help you, right?
Right. And I think what you've just captured is why the concept, like people use the word, but they don't fully understand what it means. And that there's a lot of misunderstanding around what it means. And so that's why I kind of wanted to open the episode this way, because the way you just explained your early journey is why there are a lot of people who are like, well, what is this thing and why would I want it in my life? Like, why is it important to have in my life? Why would it be meaningful in terms of my connection with self and with a partner?
Yeah. Well, let's start there, right? The practices of Tantra that I learned, even in the midst of crazy orgies and like boundaryless chaos, the fundamental practices that I learned from both the neo-tantric movement and also ancient practices that were kind of brought in and altered, or also just studying on my own of different lineages, helped to heal my entire fragmentation around spirituality, God, connection to higher self, and sexuality. And the fragmentation or the major disconnect that I had where I was in all these healing arts and all these spiritual schools, which actually they were cults, I realize now. But anyways, so everything was about meditation in the higher chakras, right? Being in your higher chakras and having all this like everything spiritual, spiritual, light. You can only go as far up as you can go down. You have to learn to balance and ground yourself in both directions. And I was someone who had been from sexual trauma disassociated from my body and was living disassociated and very much in higher chakra and not touching anything like earthly stuff, right?
Mhm.
In a big way. And when I learned how to integrate and run the energy, our life force energy, which Tantra is all about Shiva, Shakti, yin, yang, right? Life force energy flowing through the chakras, and how to balance and open and create and heal through very simple processes that I do still do all the time, right? They've just become so much part of my norm that I don't think like, oh, I'm doing a tantra practice. No, I just breathe through all my chakras and I touch my heart and I connect with my genitals and I hold the two and I run the energy and the circuitry. One of the most basic practices I learned, and I learned this in my 20s. It was like, if anyone wants to try it now or just experience it overall, doing it on your own body, it helps to clear shame and things that where we are disconnected, to be able to actually hold your cock or pussy and connect with your heart, right? And to move the energy up and down and to play with it. And to, when I first got into this, I had so much trauma. I learned to go to sleep this way just to hold myself, to start learning how to actually hold myself, like how to create, right? Some ease and some connection, because it felt like my sexuality was totally in this place of like bad, wrong, dirty. And then I had all this spiritual energy, right? And now it's one and the same. These are not different. That's what Tantra, to me, the fundamental energy, especially with Neo Tantra, is that the sexuality, your spirituality is one. Sex is sacred, and the sacred is sexy, is what I like to say, right? And unfortunately, that's been used as like the greatest turn on line for some people and ways of creating really crazy, again, workshops and places that I would never recommend to anybody of like just schools and things that are unsafe. If anybody out there is looking for to learn Tantra, and they want to find the right school or workshop or something, I would encourage doing a lot of research around that. Right. They can certainly email me at sacredtemplearts@gmail.com. I'm happy to give recommendations and steer people away maybe from certain places as well. I'm not going to do that publicly, but I do offer, just my experience and opinions of not just my personal ones, but clients that have come to me from places where things went really wrong for them. And then how do we help fix that to create more safety and better boundaries and so forth? But the basic practices essentially are what created, instead of just like regular kind of like sex, going to ecstasy and full body healing, bliss, and deep connection with my whole being in my body. Right. First, I had to learn it. I also always teach you learn it in your own body first and then with a partner. So everybody has to learn the solo practices. And I really went deeply into that because I was single at the time. And I even had like a bedroom in my house that was just like, this is the Tantra room. And I'm learning and studying Tantra in this room with myself. It was all set crystals, big mattress on the floor. Like I really went through. Margot Anand is one of the teachers. I would recommend her Sky Dancing Tantra School. And anyone could just pick up her books and really safely start to study Tantra. Margot's still teaching in her 80s. She's an amazing French woman. Her books are, there's many of them, but like The Art of Sexual Ecstasy, The Art of Sex Magic. They're 30, 40 years old maybe, but they're still like really nice. Here you go. Here's how to learn basic fundamental tantric practices that will totally shift your sex and love life in your body first and with others. I just had to share this one story. I once had a dear female lover and friend. This was so amazing to me. She, in 8th grade, so she was like a decade older than me. So this was like back 70s, right? Or something. So I'm terrible with time. But anyways, she was in a very conservative, weird town in New England, like myself, I grew up in. But she had a boyfriend in 8th grade whose parents were like really cutting edge and a little different, right? And they left out the book. Margot Anand's first Tantra book, which I forget which one it is. Maybe it's The Art of Sexual Ecstasy, but it's kind of like the fundamental manual. And her and her boyfriend decided, he brought it to her and they skipped school a day every single month for an entire year and did every practice in the book before they had sex for the first time. Right? I won't call it virginity because that's stupid. But I mean, can you imagine if that was your first sexual experience? I want that for anybody who wants it.
Seriously, that would be very different than my first experience.
Hello, right? Oh my God. They were opening their chakras and doing eye gazing and heart to heart connection and solo practices and breathing and learning all of this Tantra and having this amazing dance of beautiful awakening and connection before they ever stuck cock in pussy.
Wow, that's amazing.
So after I did create that for myself. I decided I was going to be a born again virgin.
Yeah.
Go through the whole book and do all of it before I had sex again at one point. I took a long, like, celibacy hiatus from others and just worked myself and then had a partner to create this with. And I mean, it was beautiful because there's something so different about the sacredness and the heart connection and the ability to have all the chakras aligned and open and connection, right? I mean, just one of the most simple things is most people are still literally having sex in the dark.
Yes.
This, right? Like,
It's true.
whether their eyes are closed or they're literally like, or both, right? The lights are off. No. Right? One of the most fundamental tantric practices that everyone could take home today and start using is that your eyes are the window to the soul and you want to be connected, right? Now, we all have moments where we need to go into our bodies and our eyes might be rolling back in our head or something, right? And by all means, but the majority of the time, I like to say like 20% of the time maximum, your eyes can be closed during a sexual experience. 80% they should be open, if not more than that. When you're orgasming or climaxing, you should be connected with your partner. Eyes. You're running the energy through all the chakras. So you have the eyes, the heart, everything connected, right? And the fundamental tantric practices set that up ahead of time where you make those start with like maybe eye gazing and then something like heart to heart loving where you each have a hand on each other's hearts and then you start to run the energy between your genitals, right? So you're making these different fundamental points of connection and contact. So eventually when things go inside of other things, right?
Right.
You've already opened and connected the whole circuitry and the whole system. And you maintain that connection. So, if I have a partner that's new to Tantra and they tend to be like always more eyes closed, I'll reach out and gently touch their eyes and be like, look at me. I'll even joke. I'll be like, am I that ugly or can you look at me? Right? Like,
Yeah.
eyes. Let's look, open your eyes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other part is the mouth. Not only are people doing it in the dark, but they're what? Mouth shut. No, in Tantra, some fundamental principles are breath, sound, movement, visualization. So breathing, right? And making sound. Moving the energy through breath and sound. So you have the eyes going, you're connected in all your chakras, you're breathing, you're sounding. Your climax and orgasms can be 4 times greater, quadrupled with just these simple practices, especially with the sound, right? But most of us learned how to like get ourselves off, right? Make ourselves come in our bedrooms, hiding under the sheets, be really quiet, no one to your feet.
Yep. Right.
So many people are still doing that. Like their 50s and 60s, right? Their whole life.
Yeah.
Like, no.
It makes such a big difference. It really does. And like your body is so much of a resonance chamber just in and of itself. The vibration only enhances, and you can tell my sound healing background's coming in here, but it's like there's so much resonance in making sound and humming and that type of stuff that
nerve activated with the humming too.
Yep, which is very helpful for those that this kind of interaction can bring up lots of feelings. And, when people are triggered for a variety of reasons, maybe it's because they have had a lack of connection with their partner because things have gotten comfortable in their relationship. So they're shutting the idea down. Maybe it's because of past history. There's a whole bunch of reasons. But being able to like hum or even if it's closed-lipped moaning, it's still gonna activate the vagus nerve.
Yes. Sounding, right? So breath, sound, movement, right? Are you like a frog on the dissecting table? Or, right? Or can you move, right? You're moving the pelvis. You're moving the whole body, right? In Tantra, lovemaking is a meditation and it's a dance, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. One of my teachers, Michael Murdad, who does not teach Tantra anymore specifically. He is actually the Sedona Unity Church main guy these days. But anyways, I would recommend his books as well. Margot and On. For anyone starting out, grab Michael Murdad's. He has a book on Tantra and sacred sexuality and another one that's like a workbook that accompanies that. They're excellent beginners. The third thing I'll just recommend before I forget, Barbara Corrales, who is in New York, her book, Urban Tantra, and she has a new version out, is an excellent one for people that are like, come on, can you make this as basic and least woo-woo as possible? Like, I just want to have a manual and learn some things, but I don't need all the woo-woo, whatever. Then you want Barbara's book, Urban Tantra, for the 21st century, I think when it first came out, but yeah, she has an updated version. So those are like really great books to just start with yourself. And then, because all of them are written for solo practice as well as with another. But Tantra is about true tantric lovemaking. It's like warm to cool, which is so different than what we're used to is like
Yeah. Yes.
friction sex, friction, fucking, right? By all means, I don't want to take that away from anybody. I like that too, but I would like die if that's all I was doing. I need like hours of lovemaking that's like, your partner can go from hard to soft and you're just in and out of each other. You may have some snacks, take a break, come back. It's the dance, it's the lovemaking, and you just keep the connection going. I love Charles May used to call it rounds. You just do rounds, right?
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think Tantra and they think back to like Sting said, oh, I had sex for 8 hours. Well, he did not do this for 8 hours, people. Right? That was what happening. No. And my longest is 4 days.
Wow.
And I plan on breaking that record still.
That's amazing.
And it was with someone who also was in school. He had studied Tantra as well. We were both practicing actively this dance of in and out of each other and just together for the 4 days of. And another thing is, of course, I should mention this, right? Tantric lovemaking, it teaches like the opposite of the sexuality that we've learned, which is go get really high and then you come and then you're done, right?
Yes.
No. It's the waves. It's like warm to cool lovemaking, and it's the waves stimulating the whole chakra nervous system internally. So you're working with the depths of these places and called sacred spot in some modalities of where you can access the whole chakra system. And it's like just this incredible ecstasy, right? And so men learn how to have multiple orgasms without ejaculation.
Oh, that was going to be one of my questions when you said 4 days.
Yes. So he came on the very last night before he had to fly back to California after we'd made love for 4 days. The ejaculation happened at the very end. All the rest of the time, it was building and playing. And he'd even built the energy up for 2 weeks before he came to see me, because there's also a thing called sex magic that is very prevalent in a lot of tantric lineages, and something I was really deeply into practicing. And I do a bit still sometimes. I used to be like religious about all of this, and I'm so more flexible these days than like I used to be. And I think that's what's important, is that you have to make this work for you. Right? Every individual has to just figure out, oh, well, what resonates with this and what doesn't? What could I incorporate, into my lovemaking with myself or another right away? What I want to learn more about, right? But yeah, it's the ability for men and women, multiple orgasms, for men without ejaculation, for women with copious amounts of ejaculation, which in Tantra, especially the Neo-Tantra, but also in ancient Tantra, Hindu and Taoist practices, female ejaculation is considered the fountain of youth.
Really?
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes. And it is supposedly the highest vibration of an elixir on the planet that has all kinds of healing capacities. Unfortunately, this reality is still trying to say it's pee when it's not. I do all kinds of education on this, and anybody that wants to, just pick up a book and get some real information. Deborah Sundall's book on G-spot and female ejaculation describes how women have a fully functioning prostate, just like men. This is where the ejaculation is coming from and how it's created. It's prostatic fluid. We have 32 ducts and glands. Men only have two, which is why we can soak a bed. Men just have a little bit of prostatic fluid. So that's a whole other conversation. But essentially, I was like, really, it's like a healing elixir. And I was amazed because Tantra men would just soak themselves in it and drink it, pour it all over. And in our demos, it was like spraying people and like, yeah. I was in Tantra camp, one of my trainings. I call it fondly Tantra camp. And I had a burn from a tea kettle that wasn't healing well. And I thought, you know what? I was doing my dissertation. I'm going to try this out. So I had my girlfriend at the time ejaculate. I swear to God, that burn was gone in hours. I was shocked. I was shocked how fast my skin started healing. And I've heard all kinds of stories. And what I know personally is that when a woman does ejaculate, you are tapped into your vagus nerve system. You're tapped into the chakras. Everything, it can flow out amazing amounts of healing energy and emotion that's been trapped and trauma. So there is something very, very powerful about the female ejaculation that is honored, worshipped, revered in many tantric traditions. They even had special vessels from ancient,
wow.
yeah, the Shinto, and there's Deborah Sundall did great work on this in terms of her research, but they had these beautiful ancient vessels, they were so specifically for catching the female ejaculate to drink.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, talk about revering the female body in ways that we have just totally lost touch with today.
Absolutely. And that was probably one of the greatest healings of my journey with Tantra was that it was the first thing I came across that was about the worship of the feminine. And so suddenly my body was beautiful just the way it was. And I had hated my body my whole life. And it was shocking to me to see the reverence and the care and the love for the whole being. And there's something really special about the Sanskrit words for our body parts that come into the tantric world, right? So the word yoni comes from Sanskrit, and instead of vagina, which isn't even anatomically accurate, right? Which is what
No.
most people use, yoni means sacred space. And I've always thought, it still makes me cry. What if as a little girl, someone taught me that I had a sacred space? My yoni was my sacred space.
Yeah.
Instead of vagina down there, all the horrible words are not even words, right? To express this most beautiful, sacred part of you. So sacred space. And then that makes you think, well, if you're sticking things in there, that might not be that sacred or great to
Yeah.
what energies am I putting in my sacred space?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Easy to consider things differently. For me, it took sex as just I've been raped, I'm promiscuous. Sex is just something that is just what it is. That's a way to try to get love too, right? And be cared about. To no, this is the holy of holies, right? This is my sacred temple. This is my sacred space. And instead of penis, I hate that word. In the Sanskrit for Tantra, in Tantric, it's lingam, which means wand of light, right?
I love
Oh my
that.
God. How different is it to consider instead of having a dick, a prick, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you have a wand of light. Use it that way.
Right?
A wand of light.
I mean, just when you're listening to this, just feel into those two vocabulary words. Feel how different they land in your body than what we use in most colloquial conversational terms for our body parts. Like it totally changes how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. And how you can create this amazing connection with your lover, right? And just this beautiful, different way of lovemaking and running energy. And I remember a partner that I had who was an engineer and he didn't believe in any of this at first. But then eventually everyone that comes into my world wakes up or they leave quickly. So it was funny because he was like, yeah, he's like, I realized because he was into Star Wars when he was a kid. He's like, I realized my lingam was like a lightsaber. And so we'd be like laying still and having tantric sex with barely any movement of
Hmm.
just, so he's inside of me and we're relaxing and breathing together and sounding and connected, right? And he would be shooting energy through his lingam like a lightsaber. He'd be like, I'd be like, "Pachoo, pachoo, pachoo," right? So he's seeing the energy and he's pulsing his PC muscles, which in Tantra is a lot around the love muscles, the muscles in our body and bandhas, different ways we can create more energy in the body. He was shooting the energy to my head, and I'm just laying there like this, right? But my whole brain is lighting up. Everything is lighting up. The energy is coming through the lingam straight to my brain because I'm totally relaxed. I'm totally open. He's in my yoni and it's just, right? And I'm just having orgasm after orgasm of full body light, light, light. And I thought it was astounding. So I was like, whoa, you really learned something there. I was like, what specifically were you doing? He's like, oh, I was imagining it. It was a lightsaber. Pachoo, pachoo, pachoo.
But clearly it works.
So see, we can take all the esoteric woo and you can make it your own, people. What works for you?
Absolutely. So you discussed some great books to get started with, and you gave us a nice practice to begin with, putting your hand over your heart and over your genitals to create that connection. Do you bring your hands back and forth where they switch places?
Yes.
Just for people who are listening to this so they can get the visual?
Yeah. So you teach one hand gives, the right hand gives, the left receives. So it's, whichever, like I can feel right now, I've just gone through some pretty intense, my pussy's like hot. It's been too hot too. So I would want to take all that heat from the pussy and spread it up to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put the right hand on my pussy and move some of that heat into my heart that's not feeling as alive. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good both ways. Right. And this is a practice when you have a partner to do with your partner. So you get behind them like you're spooning them and you do this heart genital practice on them as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is an amazing way to fall asleep, to wake up, to do for foreplay, to do as aftercare. It's just an awesome practice.
That's
Some
awesome.
of the most basic tantric practices that I learned that I teach my couples, I still do use them all the time because they're always still evolving and are so powerful. Right. So people don't have to think, oh my God, I have to go live in a cave or like I have to go wear a robe or do weird shit. You don't. You don't have to do any of that. You can pick up a book. You can sign up for a session with me. I do sometimes offer some introductory sessions for people where they just want to learn some basics and get some resources. I do it virtual or in person. My main thing is going deep into extended programs to create greater for people, but I will offer shorter sessions. And I do have one specifically with Tantra of like, what's the introduction for you? What practices would be helpful? There's just so many. I mean, every bit of Tantra is another experience. It feels of like you can go 10 layers deeper into each practice, right? And everything that's happening. And that's what's so amazing about the difference between what we've been taught about sex that seems so cut and dry and practically really just retarded and boring, in my opinion, compared to what's available, which is full healing of your entire body, total soul level immersion with not just your partner, but with the divine or whatever you consider like sacred or spiritual or anything different. Like it takes you out of these very mundane states of being of like, let's fuck. Oh, I came. That was fun, right? In Tantra, they call it help sneeze. Right? Oh, I came. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's oh, 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 ecstasy, bliss, high levels of multiple orgasms. The only danger is things like I've had experiences in the past where I overdid it. And then I remember one pretty funny one early on where I had to literally crawl out of my house. Luckily, I lived like out in the woods. My partner was with me. He thought it was pretty funny. And it was because I was literally just like, I just couldn't even talk. And I was like, I had to crawl outside. I was naked and just roll around in the grass to ground myself.
Ground yourself.
Yeah. I was like drooling, like,
Yeah.
I had so many orgasms for so many hours that I literally blew every chakra and every bit of my system. And I was like, I mean, I didn't die. I didn't have a heart attack. It wasn't that bad. It was very funny. It took some grounding to come back to this realm. But I think that's pretty much the worst thing that could happen to you, something like that.
Well, and I know that there are people listening to this going, I can't even imagine having that many orgasms because my experience with my partner is he gets there. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then that's it. They get up, they pull their pants on, they go about their day. Right? Like that's such a lived experience for so many people that I just know there's at least one person listening to this going, how the fuck do I do that? Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously what Sacha's describing, you have to work your way up to, right? You have to do the practices. And it's a practice. It's just like yoga. Like you're not going to turn yourself into a pretzel the first time you get on a yoga mat. You just simply can't, right? So it's the same idea. You have to work with the practices and take the time with yourself and learn how to connect with those depths within yourself and then be able to bring a partner into the experience because you can't get there from here. Can you tell where I'm from? So, but it's true, right? So I love this conversation though, because for those of you who are listening and are super skeptical and are like, man, I'd like to have sex for 4 days and have multiple orgasms. And
I can teach you people. I do it all the time.
It's all
learnable.
Wow. Yeah.
Our bodies are designed innately for multiple orgasms, ecstasy, and this kind of bliss, and as a way of healing themselves as well.
Yes. And that's after we did our episode on the blueprints, like I think that it was eye-opening for people to see there's different ways to turn their body on and their partner's body on. And this is its own energetic practice on it in and of itself. Yeah. So like this isn't a blueprint. This is its own set of practices to help you get in touch with yourself and with a partner and to get to different, deeper levels of connection and really energetic transfer is really what this is.
Transformation, massive healing, sexual healing, transformation. And there's different, I'd be remiss to not say there's white Tantra, which I always teach fundamentally. I think if you're going to practice red Tantra, which is the sexual Tantra, or pink, which is in between, you need to have the white Tantra basics down first of how to run the energy in your own body. So if you think white Tantra is like Buddhist Tantric, the Dalai Lama and so forth, they are celibate, but they're running the energy through the chakras with the earth and with spirits, devas, whatever, right? They're moving the energy that way. And so what you learn to do it in your own body first and how to have the kind of orgasms through the whole system, opening everything up, then you bring it to a partner.
I love that. So we have places to get started, but if people are like, ooh, this is energetic, this feels a little outside of my wheelhouse, and I'm not sure if I can grasp the fundamentals in a book, how can people get a hold of you, Sacha?
They can go to my website, sacredtemplearts.com. You can also just email me, sacredtemplearts@gmail.com. But really, there's a lot of shadow banning going on lately. So sometimes it's a little harder to find my website. But if you Google my name and Sacred Temple Arts, those two should show up together, hopefully, as my website. And I have a contact page on my website where you can sign up for a complimentary consult. I have an entire page. It's under my healing arts page, but there's a whole separate page on Tantra, how I teach Tantra, more information about Tantra, some videos about Tantra. I'll put this on that page when it comes out. So yeah, that's probably the best way to reach me. And I am happy to help people on the journey. It's my greatest pleasure and gift to help people safely navigate the waters of such an incredibly expansive and life-altering, really healing modality is how I portray it of Tantra. And it can be dangerous out there. So beware.
Yeah. Make sure you choose whoever you work with very carefully.
Very, very.
I feel like that's the case, though, with a lot of programs around sexuality, a lot of programs around health and wellness, though, too.
Absolutely.
So definitely do your research because we're talking about a lot of unregulated industries. While licensure is great, it also makes a person place-bound. So it doesn't mean that you don't have a great practitioner. But just, I would encourage you, no matter what it is that you're seeking for your health and wellness journey, to just really do your research on your practitioner. So with that, Sacha will be back again. She has graciously agreed to do a few more episodes because I feel these topics are sometimes wildly misunderstood. I feel like they're a very pivotal part of our overall health picture, and we just don't talk about it enough. So thank you so much, Sacha, for joining us, for sharing your wisdom. And until next time, everybody.